Leo Meller is a first-year medical student at the University of California, San Diego. He is a graduate of UCI, right?
Yeah, that.
Where he was, where he was a when he completed his bachelor's of science in human biology and graduated as a campus-wide honored with Latin honored, means that like really good grades, and joined Phi Beta Kappa, which is like all the smart people go to. He's been involved with research and many publications throughout his entire undergraduate and also as a medical school. And he's done basic science research in dermatology, medical education, undergraduate biology, emergency medicine, otolaryngology, cardiology, and ultrasound. And he loves to be outdoor in his free times, and he likes to climb anything that is flat, right? No, straight, straight up. So he likes to climb, and he always believes that climbing fixes everything. So without
Really
further ado,
does.
welcome.
Perfect. Thanks, Jobin. So hi everyone. Like Jobin said, my name is Leo Meller. I'm a first year MS1 at UCSD School of Medicine. And today I'm going to talk to you guys about, I guess, time management as a busy pre-med student. I think this is probably like one of the things that I think I do best in terms of like contributing to my success. I think having like discipline and time management will really make us like a lot better in life in general. Also, just make you a stronger applicant for med school. Just because I know that how many things that everyone has to balance. So again, this is my I guess my white coat photo, and it's a photo of me climbing. So in undergrad at UC Irvine, and like Jobin said, I love hiking, climbing, gun surfing, playing basketball, running, and weightlifting, and I just love doing research. So I think it's very interesting, very feeling to show this photo. So my dad actually framed this for me for my birthday, I think a couple of years ago. And I think this really fits in well with the theme today, which is if you preparation equals to good time management, which equals to less stress and success, enjoyment, and happy life. Maybe take a second to kind of think about this a little bit. I think that there's a lot to unpack here, and that's kind of the theme today is that preparation is key. And I happen to have a pretty busy day today, so I just want to share with you, guess my schedule for today. So I happened to be presenting at the International Research Conference this morning because it was international, so there was a time difference. So my presentation time was scheduled at 3:45 in the morning. So today I woke up at 3 and I prepared to present at the meeting, and I studied between 4:30 to 6 a.m. And then 6 a.m. From 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. I went surfing in the morning. I came back, got breakfast, and studied, and they had a research meeting from 9 to 10, and then with the class at 10 to 12. In the afternoon, I was shadowing ophthalmology today. It was super cool. And I was studying earlier, and now I'm presenting. And then tonight I'm just going to play basketball, hang out with my friends, and then study and wrap up my day. So I guess in terms of this, I just want to give a pretty representative schedule of what I did as a pre-med during UCI. So typically, I'm an early riser. I like to get up early during the day just because I feel like I'm super productive early in the morning. So typically, I'm up by 5 a.m. and oftentimes lectures were recorded during COVID. So I'll watch all my lectures in the morning between 5 to 7. And I'll typically volunteer at 7 in the morning until like 9 or so, whether it's like helping out with the domestic violence hotline call, whether it's going in person. And then typically I work 9 to 3 at the ENT clinic. That's what I did as an undergrad. And then I volunteer for 2 more hours somewhere else, wrap to work, and then I'll do research for a couple hours. And then typically by 8 p.m., I'm kind of winding down for the day. I'll relax, decompress, probably work out typically. And then I'll typically sleep by 10. Contrasting with my schedule as a medical student, I feel like my days are a lot more flexible as a medical student. Um, medical school is mostly exams and lectures are often recorded, so there isn't that much mandatory in-person attendance as you would. So your days are pretty flexible, and it's really up to you to stay, I guess, motivated and disciplined to make sure you get everything done that you wanted to. So my schedule for med school is typically I'll get up at 6. I'll typically maybe go on the treadmill and study at the same time. And then I'll go to lecture for 4 hours. In the afternoon, I typically will study more. or oftentimes I'll be shadowing the OR or in the clinic with physicians. And afterwards, I typically spend a couple hours doing research, whether it's writing, data collection, running some stats, and then typically from 7 to 9, I like to do my second workout of the day. So I typically go to the gym again, or I go climb. And oftentimes I'll wrap up everything by 11 p.m. So I think so here the next couple of slides are going to be some advice that I have, which is really what kept myself going and helped me manage like a busy schedule. I'm sure all of you guys as pre-meds, there's a bunch of things you have to manage. Have to obviously do well in classes, get A's. Also have to do research, volunteer, whether it's clinical or non-clinical. And also, I just know that we are all humans after all, and have to maintain good relationships with our friends, significant others, and family. So there's so many things you have to keep in mind as a pre-med student. I know it's super hard to balance, and I've definitely been in your shoes. So I guess some pointers that I have is that you should use a reminder. So if there's something important, whether it's going out to dinner with the family, meeting with a physician, or just anything in general, make sure you have a reminder on your phone. I like to use my iPhone's reminder app. I think it's super helpful because sometimes I'll literally forget that there's something going on the day after, but then having a reminder on your phone really make sure that you can attend to everything that's important to you. And also double check your calendar all the time. Don't try to overcommit yourself on any given day. Say like, don't do, I feel like in my mental schema, I like to say, okay, say I'm doing this hard experiment today. I'll likely be focusing on that experiment during that day, and I won't be doing anything else that's super hardcore. So don't overcommit yourself and make sure you get enough sleep. I try to sleep around 6 to 7 hours at least every day. So I think getting enough sleep is really key to being productive. I think my mental clarity is a lot higher when I'm getting a lot of sleep. And just nutrition. I think people used to say, look good, feel good. I really think it's eat good, feel good. So if you eat healthy, eat nutritious food, I think that really helps improve your mental clarity. And overall, I think feeling good also helps improve your productivity as well. And second thing is, you might have heard this before, but I just really want to run this point home. You really have to focus 100% when you're working. So typically, say you've set the time aside to study, to do work and research, really focus 100% on during those 1 hour or even 30-minute blocks that you have. This just means putting your phone away in a different room, putting your phone in your backpack if you're in the library, closing your emails, and really getting into the zone of being efficient with your work. I think that many times I understand that it might be hard to have you have to wait for someone's text or email. I think it's very distracting when there's multiple influences going on at the same time if you're trying to accomplish something. So I think really when you're having like a study block, whether it's 30 minutes or an hour, really make sure that you fully utilize those 30 minutes. I promise you, everything else can wait when you're have so much work to do. And I think it's also really good for mental health overall to feel accomplished that you've studied hard in all the times or worked hard in any free time that you have. And it really helps free up a lot of other time for other volunteering commitments or other things in life in general. And one thing that I try to do every time to make myself feel good after study or work session is that I really try to get something accomplished in each little block that I have. So say I have 30 minutes of free time in between classes. That means you could finish a research task that you have, whether it's like double checking your data analysis or whether emailing someone your research results, or sometimes you could do a set of flashcards if you do flashcards at all in between classes. So I think really taking something away in between every work session, it helps a lot in making sure that you stay on your track. It also just makes you feel good. It makes you feel productive. And that's overall, I think very critical to having like a productive lifestyle. And this thing is something that I feel like it's very important for pre-meds is that you really have to want it bad enough. Like, as you know, like med school is getting more competitive nowadays with admissions. And I really understand that pre-med is really one of, I guess, most stressful times, I guess, in this medical journey because it's so much uncertainty. You don't know how you're going to do on the MCAT. You're not sure how the admission committee is going to review your applications. There's too many uncertainty with the life of a pre-med. So, and there's also so many things you have to balance as a pre-medical student as well. So like to be successful with managing your school, your work, your extracurriculars, hobbies, and relationships, you really have to want it. You have to understand that what your priorities are. You have to make sure you get after it. And I really think that if you have this intrinsic motivation you will stay more disciplined, and naturally that'll make you manage your time a lot better and just overall have a better work-life balance. And something that really worked for me is that I love to get up early. Somehow I feel like if you get up early, the 2 or 3 mornings in early mornings, it's equivalent to like 6 or 7 hours later on during the day. So for me, I'm really productive in the mornings. In the mornings, I typically don't get any emails, any text messages, and I'm typically just I'm more clear in the morning. So say I get up at 5 a.m. I guess my efficiency between 5 to 8 a.m. it's crazy. Those 3 hours I can get like 5 hours of work done. And think about getting up later. If you get up like 8 or 9 o'clock, you have breakfast, it's already 10 or 11. And then there's only so much time during the day and so much energy. So I really think getting up in the morning early really sets yourself apart and really helps you accomplish a lot more things during the day. And also it just really feels good to get up early and get a lot of things done. I think it sets up for a great mood during the day. You feel accomplished, you feel productive, and overall, I just think it's the key to being productive. But also recognize that there's many night owls out there. My college roommate wouldn't go to bed until 3 or 4 in the morning. So I know some other people also work efficiently at night as well. So I think the key is to really understand like what works best for you. When are you most productive? And really go ham during those hours when you're at your maximum efficiency. Another thing I have is you have to prepare well days and events for whatever you have going on. So supposedly, if you have multiple events going on in a given day, you should plan your outfit the day before, the food you're going to eat, and things you're going to bring. So I think this can reduce a lot of that last minute stressors. I'm sure we've all been there where you have to get out the house in the morning and you have like 4 or 5 things you have to attend to. It's very stressful last minute to make sure that you're adequately prepared. Oftentimes you might forget things, and that's just human nature. So I think you have to be prepared in advance in terms of what you're going to do the day after, and also plan exactly what you'll be doing by hours of the day. Say you finish a volunteering shift and you drove to the next place you have to be at, and there's 25 minutes between downtime. What can you do in these 25 minutes? Do you want to go on Instagram and relax? Sure, you could, but also like if you have other stuff to do, maybe it's best to be more productive. So you could also like review your class notes in 25 minutes, force yourself to be efficient and concentrate in those 25 minutes. You can get a lot of things done, surprisingly. And you can also use the time to respond to emails or do any like miscellaneous tasks that you have. I think just making a checklist for yourself every day and make sure that you finish everything on a checklist. I think that's really key to staying on top of all the commitments you have as a pre-med student. And but checking off everything on your list, that also makes sure that you don't leave anything from today for tomorrow. So that just keeps them pushing yourself forward and making sure you get everything done in time. So how do you balance schoolwork with extracurriculars? I'm sure that you guys have all been volunteering a lot. You're involved in different on-campus clubs and organizations. That's a really good. And I was involved in all of that too as an undergrad. So I think the key here is that you have to make a consistent schedule around school. So school obviously comes first, and you want to really get good grades at school because that's really what's going to build your foundations for medical school. I can say that because in medical school, if you have a good study schedule and a good grasp of the concepts from undergrad, that really help you a lot in the future as well. So I think some tips I have is that in the beginning of the quarter or the semester, really map out the exam dates and know exactly when classes start and end. So this way, like consistently, I'm free on this day between what time to what time. And this is very easy for you to plan your extracurriculars around schoolwork and make a very consistent schedule. For example, say you have class from 9 to 10 in the morning and 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. So you can use the gap between 10 to 1 to do volunteer and research. You can do something else after 3 p.m. as well. Oftentimes, like this involves a lot of communication with your supervisors in your lab and your volunteer organizations. So just make sure that your extracurriculars organizers are aware of your schedule. So I think really making sure that you understand when you have school and when you have time free to do other stuff. That's key to building like a very consistent schedule. I think consistency overall will help you make sure that you balance all the commitments that you have. And another thing is just staying disciplined. I know pre-med can be very challenging and you can be very busy, but like you really make sure, but it really goes a long way in ensuring that you get everything you want to do done within a given day, and just stay focused when you're working. And then if you have any downtime, I know some of you may be taking buses when you're traveling to school, walking on a treadmill when you're working out. You can always use these times to listen to lectures and do flashcards, for example. I think people always say don't double task. I think sometimes that's pretty important, especially when you know that you could be multitasking everything at the same time. So I think obviously that's not encouraged that you do other stuff during lectures, but say if you were working out, if you were doing something else, if you have a lot of stuff to do, you can always find things to multitask at the same time and really improve your efficiency. But also, don't forget to have fun. I think everyone needs time to depress and relax. I will say, like, I think I spend a good amount of time for myself every day. I'm thinking at least 30 or 40 minutes a day, but typically more. I'm spending like 1 or 2 hours every day for my hobbies as well. And also have to make sure you see your loved ones on the weekends as well, and whenever you have time. So overall, having a really good mental health schema and making sure that you're still keeping up with your hobbies and talking to people that you love, that you care about. I think this is really important to overall improving your mental health and having a good study efficiency. Especially something that I've noticed is that taking breaks oftentimes will improve your ideas. Say if you're writing like a paper for a lab, or if you were doing like a some kind of task you have to do, or like concepts that you can grasp from the lectures. I think take some time off, whether it's to work out, to relax a little bit. Sometimes I believe that your brain might be focusing or in the background processing this information, even when you're not doing it. So oftentimes we come back. I'm sure that you guys have experienced this before, where you might have a writer's block when doing like an essay, but then after you take some time off and come back to it, it feels a lot better. So I think really sometimes taking breaks will really help open new ideas as well. And last but not least, I really think it's important to have a good mindset. I know pre-med is so, I mean, the journey is really uncertain. There's so many things we have to do and so many things that we have to be good at to become successful in the med school applications. I know it can be super overwhelming, but really, I think if you have a consistent schedule, and it's important for you to reflect towards the end of the day and to realize how productive and how many positive things you've done every day. I think having this positive mindset of self-encouragement can really go a long way in terms of helping you stay on task and making sure that you enjoy the process. I truly think that I know the end goal is to get into med school and become attending matching the specialty you want to match into. But really, I think enjoy the process. Take every little successes that you get, whether it means getting an A on an exam, whether that means grasping like a hard concept. Encourage yourself along the way. I think that's really important for overall staying on track and enjoy the process. I'm sure it's going to pay off. So that's actually all my presentation slides. I'm happy to answer any questions right now.
Can you turn off the presentation so your face shows up and not the slide? And I will put the email in the chat as well. I think this is one question. Do you attend classes or see videos in med school?
Yeah, good question. In my school, there are some classes that are required, and oftentimes, those you have to go. But typically, if classes are recorded, I tend to watch them recorded because, first of all, many contents are related to each other. So supposedly, the lecturer said something in the early part of the lecture, and I missed it. That's going to impact me in terms of how I understand for the rest of the lecture. And I just know like you use my time. So typically I watch them at home when it's recorded, so I can go back and pause if I didn't understand something. And I think that just works a lot better in terms of like improving my study efficiency.
The other question is, so what about if you're not a morning person, what about night person? What do you do then?
Yeah, I think honestly, I think you imagine your day just shifting backwards like a little bit. If you're super efficient at night, I think that's perfectly fine. I don't see really a big difference between that and being a good morning person. So just make sure you capitalize. Like if you know that you're most efficient at like 12 at night, then just make sure you capitalize those couple hours you have to make sure you get most of your stuff done. But I think one thing that should stay consistent, regardless of whether you're a night person or morning person, is to be productive during the day as well. If you have some downtime, make sure that you use them well. I know it can be hard to like to stay focused at all times, but supposedly you have like 30 or 40 minutes between classes. I think you should really use those small time because they can contribute a lot to your overall daily productivity. You'd be surprised if you force yourself to finish a task within 30 or 40 minutes. You'd be surprised how much you can get done during the day for sure.
Yeah, and I think the problem is if you were a morning person, be a morning person. If you're a night person, be a
Yeah,
night person. The problem is most people that are inefficient become both morning and night person, and that just doesn't work. I think your brain does need to rest and, like sleeping in the bed, you know, dark room, all that different stuff. And I work nights, and so a lot of times my struggle is to be able to balance both of them.
yeah.
And so I think people that, if you're a night person, just work around your schedule with nights. This is a good question. I think we all need tips for this one, but what is a good tip to stop procrastinating?
Yeah. So I think the key to that is that I think typically when people procrastinate, that's oftentimes because it's something that they want to put off until later on because the task might be particularly stressful, or maybe you just need the pressure from the deadline to really push yourself to do something. And I think a good way to work around that is to imagine all the things that you like to do in your free time. So supposedly, if you procrastinated, sure, like you can do everything you want to do right now, but the day or 2 days before, whenever something's due, that'll become really stressful. Say if a lab report due on a Tuesday, and you only get stressed about it on Monday. That means you have to hustle everything in just in one day on Monday. And typically, I think when you rush things, oftentimes the quality of work isn't as good. So I guess first of all, I mean, I guess if you're good at if you're good at procrastinating and you've got through everything up until then and you get good grades and everything's fine, then um, if that's how you live, then I don't really see like something that's necessarily wrong with it. But something that you're concerned about, then I think that you should try to work on it by first of all realizing how much stress you will get put under by not staying on top of things every day, and to realize how much more free time, how much better that you're gonna feel if you are able to finish or deal with the harder task in advance. Say I had a hard essay that's due in a couple of weeks. If you can start working on it right now and get the outline done and work on it weekly, like day by day, slowly but slowly. It doesn't have to be getting everything done in one chunk of time. If you can slowly tackle something, that really reduces a lot of stress towards the end. And I really think that that will free up a lot of other time and really help you get into like a better, more consistent schedule.
Yeah, the only thing is I would add is most of us procrastinate because we have our phones, and a lot of us study on iPads. And so like
Yes.
turning off, putting those focus models, like, putting it in focus and not like listening to, not listening to all the emails and all the warnings and notifications and everything else comes up. That was like a big struggle for me. And so yeah, I just basically learned how to use the those focus services and other stuff. The other part of it too is I don't get how people do this, but like having the TV on and study, or listening to music, which is fine. But like, you're singing along, Megan Stallion song, or I don't know, or Taylor Swift song, and you're just not really, focused. And so I think people that procrastinate are inefficient in the time that they have. So if you have an hour block to study, but you're doing seven different things, listening to Taylor Swift and watching, TV and checking your email and your Instagram and Twitter and all these different stuff, you're probably not going to be inefficient. So it's going to take you probably 3 hours for that 1 hour studying. So, and I think you just have to figure that out. Something you have to do. If you're someone who needs total silence, then do it in total silence. I love studying in the library. I think I'm very efficient, but also I think I those books inspire me, that by osmosis I get smarter when I sit between bookshelves and study. So that's what I do. But everybody else is very different. This is a question. How do you plan your day, week, month? What tips do you have? What resource materials you use? And would you recommend that we check out?
Yeah. So I think definitely use your calendar heavily. I think I wouldn't be where I am right now without my calendar. There is simply too many things to keep track of, and you definitely want to be responsible to anything you have, whether it's volunteering or research. I think like just so first of all, so using a calendar definitely helps a lot. Like so know exactly what things you have going on each day, and just know how much free time and downtime you have in between activities. I think so. Once you figure out, okay, here are the things that I have to do today, that's mandatory. Everything around that, you can use those time to check off other things on your to-do list, whether it's watching a lecture or reviewing any research materials, for example. And what resources and materials would I use and recommend checking out? Um, I think honestly, I think reminder app on my iPhone is really good. I think setting very specific reminders for yourself. It could be things as small as getting body wash, for example, just making sure that every little things you are accounted for. I think that's what matters the most. In terms of planning, I guess another I guess another tip that I have is that really make sure that if you're involved in something, make sure you show up consistently for it. I think the best way to do that is to have a fixed schedule. So typically, if say back when I was an undergrad, if I'm volunteering in the hospital, I like to go say every Thursday morning, and that's a weekly thing. So right away, I know that on Thursday mornings I'm not available because I'm volunteering. I think honestly, just having like a really consistent schedule for all the extracurriculars you have just really makes you plan your day a lot better. And in that way, you also know when are you free to do other fun stuff as well.
Yeah, the only thing is I would say start making weekly schedule. So I put this link on their Passion Planner. I really like having a paper planner where I sit down ahead of time, a week ahead, a month ahead, and I plan everything with a pencil and then fill it around and then put everything into my um, iPhone is because I don't carry my planner everywhere. My iPhone has reminders on there if I need to do stuff. I put everything in there and I have different things. And to me, like the biggest thing that like really gets me excited is when I cross something out.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's such a good feeling. So, I mean, all of us spend, a lot of money on our phones. And I mean, I've done this with our leadership group. I was like, pull out your phone. I want to see who's using the calendar. And nobody does. And it's like you're paying thousands of dollars for those phones and then pay the service, but don't use it. And so I think, I mean, there's a lot of resources out there. You don't need to go buy anything extra. I just like a paper planner just because well, I'm dyslexic, so things have to be laid out for me so that I could see better, and then just cross out things and fill in the blanks. And so yeah, so I found that to be very um, yeah. So this is another question about distraction is even if you make a schedule, are there any distractions that prevent you from following your schedule fully? Yes, it's called life. Everybody has things that come up. Like I'll let you share that, Leo. What do you do to fully be distraction free?
Yeah. So I really echo with what you said before. When you're studying, sometimes I know, like, say you have to calculate something on your phone with the calculator, or have to like check some documents on your phone. I think whenever I'm working, I turn off everything. My phone's on focus mode. I turn off my emails. I don't see anything. I'm trying to focus exactly on the task I have to do in that very particular moment. Otherwise, it's very easy for a text to come in or email to come in and get you going, and you respond to the email or that text, and it takes up so much time, and like overall you lose track of your things. So overall, I think having like a distraction free zone, no emails, no text, no anything when you're working, I think that's very important. But then say obviously sometimes things happen. You get like an emergency text or a very important email that really it's time sensitive and you have to respond to right away. I think the key to that is, sure, like you have to attend those, that's life. I mean, everyone has things going on besides schoolwork and everything else too. But I think the key to make up for that is that still in the very same day, you might have to sacrifice a little bit of something else as well, just to make sure that whatever task you had planned for that day, you get them done. I think my motto is like, I don't want to leave anything that's from today to tomorrow. So if I could get something done today, I will get something done today. If that means sacrificing, I guess, like 20 minutes of YouTube time towards the end of my day, or sacrificing like 10 minutes from my workout, I think that's worth it, because you want to stay on top of your tasks every day, so and keep pushing yourself forward.
Yeah, the only thing that I would add is I work in the ER, so there's a system called Triage. You could show up and have this perfect thing, and then things happen. Like you have to address things. For example, if your significant other car breaks down, in the middle of the street at 10 o'clock at night. You can't say, "Oh, I'm going to go to bed," or "Oh, I got to study." You're going to have to do it, but it means that you get right back on the horse and don't get defeated. There's going to be distractions. There's things that are out of your control, like things that happen. Like I was reading on Twitter that a graduate student, somebody was working and fell through his roof and had to move, and that happens, and so you have to address that. You can't, some guy falling through your roof, you probably but that means that you need to get right back on it and get back on track. So distractions happen, life happens. um Another question was, effective study methods. How do you study on the go? Just flashcards?
Yeah. So I guess obviously I think this depends on whatever class you're taking. I know like different professors with different classes, there's different ways of studying. Like for example, OCamp back in the day, I would mostly review my notes and just do as much practice questions as I could. So I think whatever class you're taking, you should have a rough understanding of what it takes to do well in that class. And by doing that, you probably understand how much time each task take. So for example, say to do well in like say a molecular bio class, it means I have to do lots of practice questions and review lecture slides carefully. So I think by like you will have a sense of how much time reviewing a lecture deck will take. So I think say you have some downtime, say 30 minutes, and you know that's the amount of time that takes you to go through one lecture, then use that time to go through one lecture, like have a good understanding of how much each study task, how much time each study task will take. And whenever you have downtime, make sure you accomplish that study task during a given time. So I think that's my response to that.
Yeah, the only other thing that I would add is I use an iPad to study, and so I have all my textbooks, all my notes, everything on there, plus flashcards, but I don't have my flashcards with me all the time. But if I get there somewhere early, I just pull out my iPad and read the textbook or my review my notes. And I mean, if it's 15 minutes, it's 15 minutes. Um, and yeah, and just, and I think with study methods, I mean, there's this whole thing with Malcolm Gladwell, it says 10,000 hours. For you to be great at something, you spend 10,000 hours. And so it's going to take time, and everybody's going to study differently. Everybody has different modes. Some people swear by flashcard, which I do. Some people swear by Anki, and I don't know how to use it. So it's all it's all like what works for you, because if you're smart like Leo, then you have different ways of doing things. But if you're not, if you're not as smart as me, then you probably have to do other things. And so I have to, like for example, I have to copy notes of my lectures. I go to a lecture, I listen, and I just have to afterwards just have to copy it. That's how I learn. And somebody as smart as Leo doesn't probably have to. Um, this is how many days a week does it take you to break procrastination?
Yeah. So I think, I mean, like I think everyone procrastinates. I think when I was little, I used to do it sometimes, but I think I would say like I don't procrastinate very often. Like I don't remember last time I procrastinated, I guess. But I mean that's because every time when I want to put something off until the day after, I just remember how much stress I will be under if I don't do it today. I think my thing is always stress relief. If I know that something's going to be very stressful, I'd rather get it done sooner than later and really just deal with it as soon as possible, because the stress of having something lingering in the back of my mind, I think is actually way more stressful than doing it up front. So I guess how many days does it take me to break procrastination? Sure, I guess sometimes if I'm on holiday break, I'm in the zone of enjoying time with my family. That might not be very productive for a couple of days. But I think as soon as school gets back in, I mean, as soon as I get back in school or as soon as research gets back on, I'm just back on the mode. If that answers the question at all.
You're getting back on the horse. This is a question. Have you ever used personal therapy for stress, and does it help?
Okay, so I personally haven't used personal therapy because my personal therapy is really doing sports. So like I work out twice a day, I go surf, I go climb. That's really my time to like for myself, and that's really important for my mental health. But I do know people that use personal therapy, and that's very common in college and med school overall. And I heard that really helps a lot. I think there's always like good on-campus mental health counseling that people I heard people have been using. People say talking to a therapist really helps. Like like it really helps in getting themselves back on track and talking through problems. It doesn't have to be, I think, with a professional therapist if you don't have the resources to do so. But talking to anyone, whether your family or your friends, and talking through your problems, I think that helps a lot. I mean, sure, like I talk to my parents all the time about things I'm stressed about, and I think opening up yourself to others, and I guess just being okay with being vulnerable, I think that helps a lot with overall dealing with your stress for sure. But yeah, I think personal therapy could be very helpful.
I could just add to that. My job is very stressful, so we have that at work, that support, that system, and I've used it a lot, certainly during COVID. I would also add that your colleges have counseling, and by absolutely, it's excellent to use them. I think most important thing is they're trained. So if you're having issues and things, by all means use them. Um, and it's your student fees pay for them. The other part of it too is that they're professionals, so they could get you the resources and the things that you need, and there is like no shame for that. I know that a lot of physicians use that. I know med schools have an entire wellness program, and I know that community colleges have it as well. I know universities have it as well, and there's like no shame in using it. It's also private, and besides like a couple of things, everything you say to them is private, and nobody else would know about it. And I think um, if I think it's just using it and knowing, and it doesn't mean that you have a problem. It just means that you need somebody to listen to you. Then by all means use it. Like there's no shame in that. And I know a lot of people that use it. Um, we also get like at work, sometimes we get therapy dogs that come in,
Yeah.
and those are awesome. Like I love those. Every time they're there, I'm like a little kid in the playground. I roll on the floor with them. So yeah, so by all means, like use all the resources that are available to you because they will help. I mean, they're professionals, they know what they're doing, and a lot of times you just need somebody to hear you out and let you vent. And sometimes friends and family and parents are really good, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they can be toxic, and I always say like I love my friends, but they're not like, well, I actually have a lot of friends in the medical field, and so my non-medical friends that are not mental health people, I love them to death, but they don't know what they're talking about. That's just me though. That's um anybody else have any other questions? Um do you think that studying for what do you think what is the three things that helped you as a pre-med to study and manage your time that you're utilizing today every day in medical school?
Yeah, give me a second. Let me think about that.
And the only thing I could add is Leo was very active and and pre-med. He did a lot of research. Like
A lot of
he
research.
showed me all the stuff that he's published. That means that dude has spent a lot of time. So FYI. So he's the outlier.
I'm still doing a lot of research right now. Like I think I'm doing a lot more research than I've been doing undergrad right now. I'm doing really a lot of research right now. But I think the three key things, the first thing is just to have a consistent schedule. That's for sure the key. So every day, like I know exactly what time to what time I'll be doing something. And in that case, I was almost like very really off track. And second of all, using reminders. I think that's so key. Um, Sometimes like there's always small things you have to do that ended up making a big difference, like emailing your PI, your results, all these things you have to do. Having reminder apps helps a lot. And third thing is just really, I think really do I think the key is to do this most stressful thing the first. Say like you're early in the morning, 6 a.m., 7 a.m., or it could be like late night, whatever. If you know you have something that's very stressful to you and that's important, I think you should do it first. I think that really opens up a lot of like mental clarity after you do it and all the stress relief. And it's just overall good for mental health. And in that case, you also won't get the feeling of like you're procrastinating. So that's my 3 tips.
Question that came through throughout a given semester as a science major, how many science classes can you handle in a given semester, both for undergrad and grad school?
Yeah. So I think for undergrad, I think depends on depends on yourself really. If you're for me, I can handle more science classes than non-science classes if you would. Like I wouldn't be able to take two humanities classes and a social science class at the same time. That's too much writing for me. Um, but I think that's something you have to ask yourself. And also depends on how hard the class is. For example, like I know physics could be hard for many people too. So physics, like say you're taking physics and or chem that quarter, should probably only focus on those 2 classes. So it depends on the class itself, really, and just overall how well do you like the subject. Like say I was taking like molecular bio, cancer bio, and like physio. That's all stuff that I find extremely interesting, and so I'm okay with taking all of them at the same quarter, even if that means them being a little bit harder, if that makes sense. And in med school, you actually don't get to choose your classes. Everyone in med school gets, I mean, at least at UCSD, you will take the same classes. And typically it's like we do about organ blocks. So we just finished cardio block. So now we're on pulmonology, which is the lungs. So the med school themselves assign us classes and schedules. So we don't get to choose.
Yeah, and the only difference between undergrad and grad in grad school or med school, they expect you to be doing it full time. So they give you financial aid and scholarships and grants and all that stuff. In undergrad, you may have to work, or you may have to, be responsible for child rearing or other stuff. So I would say take enough science classes that you can get A's in. So if
Yeah.
that is one a semester, then do one.
Yep.
If it's three, then do three, but don't try to live somebody else's standards because it's kind of challenging. You know, if you want to compare to someone who doesn't work and is going to school versus
Yep.
you that have to put in 20 hours, then take that into account, you know. But yeah, I think it's an excellent question. And you want to get as many A's as you can. Nobody's going to give you,
Definitely.
if you take 5 science classes a semester and you get all C's, nobody's going to give you a cookie for that. But if you take one science class and get an A with a bunch of easy GE classes, then do that. But at some point, you need to get build up to it. So if you're just starting out, just start with one and then you become better at it. But yeah, this is one of the biggest things that I've seen with people that come in and say, "Oh, I did really bad," and you look at their schedule and they're taking calculus and general chemistry and bio and physics, and they work like 25 hours a week, and it's just like, how do you do it? Like I can't take more than certain, I can't take more than 2 science classes because I work, and so, and if anybody says that's like, I have to pay rent and bills, and so this is a question: what study techniques do you use? How did you study the material?
Yeah. And before I answer the question, I just want to go off on the last thing. I think on the last question, definitely um, make sure you get A's and like or highest grade they can do. Honestly, like most of the pre-med majors are set up in such a way that and there's no rush for you to take multiple science classes in the same quarter. You have 4 years to get your prereqs done. And honestly, my school prereqs is only technically the first 2 years of school. Like the upper division classes that I'd be taking in college, like say immunology and hematology, for example. Med school only required like really the prereqs for med school are the first 2 years of basic science classes that you have in undergrad. And take UC Irvine, for example, where I went for college, third and fourth year at UC Irvine, it's very low burden compared to the first and second year. There's so much more free time to take as much classes as you want in third and fourth year to make up for any classes you didn't take first and second year. So I think honestly, any 4 year college, if you take like 1 or 2 science classes per quarter, I think you will be able to fulfill all the med school requirements. And the key is to really, really make sure that you get A's in your classes because that's what matters the most. And for this question from Kylie, techniques do I use? Okay, so I always watch lectures. My thing is, I always watch lectures carefully. I and after I watch the lectures in the same day or a few days after, I always make sure to go through the slides by myself to really make sure that I understand all the key points that the major and that the professor is talking about. I think oftentimes the key to doing one of the exams is to really understand the lectures well versus like using online resources. So I always watch lectures, review lecture slides, review my notes carefully, and I love doing practice questions. If a professor gives you practice questions, do them. Like I'll do them every week, do them the night before the exam. Typically before exams, I'd always the day before, typically, like say I have an exam next week for pulmonology. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to review all my lecture content first. So I'm going to go through all the slides, go through lectures to make sure that, okay, content-wise, I'm good. And the last 2 or 3 days before the exam, all I do is practice questions. I do as much practice as I can and learn from my mistakes through my practice questions. I think oftentimes it's beneficial to make sure you think you understand the content, but applying them to questions is a whole different beast. So making sure that you spend as much time as you can in actually practicing the questions, I think that's the key to doing well in classes.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. One of the things also is knowing what kind of learner you are. This is like a very
Yeah.
um, simple quiz that you could take, and just and trying to respond to it as best as you can to know what kind of learner you are. And some people are auditory learners, some people are visual learners, some people learn by listening, some people learn by watching, some people learn by reading. So take those quizzes, and there's a bunch of quizzes and stuff that you can look at. Uh, tips for studying. There's I'm trying to find if I can find it. I'll put it in there. Yeah, there's this is actually I found this guy to be really helpful too on YouTube. There's a college info geek. And you learn how to organize and do all. I found this guy to be really helpful. So even though he's not pre-med, I think he has a lot of really good videos that you could look at. Did you take a gap year before med school?
I did not. At first, I was going to, but then COVID happened, and so in that case, I took my MCAT a little bit early. So I did not take any gap years. But I think that if you think, I mean, only apply to med school when you think your application is the best. Don't waste a year applying and the money. It really costs a lot of money to apply to med school and a lot of effort too. So I think um, only apply when you feel it's ready. If that means without a gap year, sure, then apply without a gap year. But if you think you need more clinical experience, more research, more volunteering, for example, or if you have to do a post-bac to get the higher grades, for example, make sure you do that before applying. I think only apply when you are most ready. I think that's the move.
Yeah, and I would say that I would just add that Leo had really high GPA and high grades and a lot of research and did a lot of. So I mean he had a lot of things that and he just applied. Some of us have to take time off to do research or other thing, and that's okay. But yeah, how much does it cost to apply to med school again?
It's a lot of money. I think, well, if you qualify for a FAFSA, I think you might get it reduced. But I think each school, I think on average, like it's $100.
Yeah, it's pretty expensive. It's on average around $4,000 if you look
Yeah,
at
I
the.
would, I would say so. Yeah, 4,000 or so.
So yeah, so it's a really expensive proposition. So do it only when you're ready.
Yeah.
And then plus the other thing is with med school, after your second time, you're considered. I mean, some schools even tell you if you've been rejected by us twice, don't apply. So
Yeah,
they're
yeah. That's a thing for sure.
so yeah, so don't. What was your major in undergrad?
I majored in human bio. I think this question is asking me, can you major in
Oh,
anything?
anything. Oh,
Yeah, so yeah, you could definitely major in anything you want. Only caveat to that is, so my schools they require prereqs, and typically that means your general bio classes with labs, general chemistry and general physics classes with labs, and then also typically some other non-science classes, whether humanities or social science, for example. So yes, you could technically major in anything you want, um, but then you have to make sure that you also take the prereqs for med school as well. And I think the easiest way to go about it is just doing a bio major because oftentimes, I think 99% of the times, if you go to like a reputable college, they will make sure to cover all the prereqs for med school. But then, sure, like if you want to do something else, if you want to do computer science or engineering because you like it, then definitely go for it. I mean, really do whatever you love. But then, if you're thinking of doing med school, doing those majors that's not bio may require more time for you to make up for the prereq classes. Also, sorry, I forgot to mention organic chemistry with labs. That's also like a requirement too. Yep.
Yeah, and I think your dean of admission coming next semester to give a talk. So ask him those questions.
Oh,
Yeah.
and Dr. Gluma's
Um,
coming?
yeah, Dr. Galuma.
Yeah.
Um, so the other question, does anybody have any other questions? Anyone? 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 Do you use any iPads or any of those gadgets? What are your toys to study?
Actually, I've never had any toys until like med school because they gave me an iPad. So now I'm using it. But I've never used any iPads. I don't use that. I always use pens and pencils just because I thought it was the most primitive way. Was like the most least distracting way that I can study. But now like I haven't used a pen for a while. So I study on iPad now. I just because I haven't. But I mean, I think it's a good tool. But then I don't know. I feel like it could be a little distracting sometimes. So I mean, whatever fits best for you guys. But I would say like if you think you're most efficient, but I mean, definitely I see advantages to using iPads as well. You can download lecture slides and just use Apple Pencil to draw on things. I wish I had that in undergrad too. So I think iPads it's a good thing to do. Um, I mean, if you guys are asking for apps, I use Anki now. I never use Anki in undergrad because there wasn't any point. But in med school, there's so much information that you should use Anki. I mean, that's my opinion.
Um, yeah, I haven't figured out Anki yet. I've downloaded it and I haven't figured it out. And I don't know. I make my flashcards OG style with paper and
Nice.
pen. That's the only time I use paper and pen. But I haven't figured out Anki. I know there's like all these videos you could do Anki Med and Anki King and Anki Donk and all the other stuff. But this is the question asked: Do you think the MCAT is the same for vet school? So for vet school, you take the GRE, not the MCAT, and there's no thing that's cut such a VCAS. There's the VMCAS, which is the application system for vet school. Which is harder, MCAT or GRE? I don't know. Have you ever taken the GRE?
I wouldn't know. And I feel like it's hard to compare.
Yeah,
Sorry, I mean that's and that question was out of my league.
yeah, yeah. I think the part of a vet school. I know that we're supposed to have somebody from UC Davis Vet School give a talk.
Nice.
I think it's in February or March. I'm not sure. Look on the website; it should be posted. But yeah, I don't know much about vet school either. All I know is that studying humans is really hard, and studying thousands of animals and vertebrates and invertebrates. I don't know.
It
But
sounds hard.
that's yeah. I don't know much about veterinary medicine. All I know is there's a huge need for it, and you know, God bless you if you could understand what animals tell you. So,
That's really cool.
but yeah, so I don't know. I like I said, I only know one veterinarian, and they're a pretty smart person. So,
But yeah,
any other questions, you guys? Um, Well, if since there's no questions, I'm sure you have better things to do, more important things to do, like sleep. Um, so we're gonna let you go. We're gonna